The Lives of the Saints by Father Alban Butler, February 26th, Blessed Isabella of France. Princess Isabella was the daughter of Louis VIII and Blanche of Castile, and therefore sister of St. Louis. To her rank and fortune were added great beauty and exceptional intelligence. Pomp and luxury appealed so little to Isabella that she confessed to a nun that if she sometimes dressed richly, it was only to please her mother, but that it did not give her the slightest delight. While still a child, she went into ecstasy several times while praying. In addition to the ordinary fasts, she used to give up eating 3 times a week. Her mother promised her that she would give alms to the poor if she would break her fast, but the princess begged her not to make such a condition. Elizabeth was very intelligent and had a real thirst for learning. She decided to include Latin among her studies so that she could read the offices of the Church and the writings of the Holy Fathers. The fasts and the nervous strain of the life she led produced a serious illness. Public prayers were made for her health, and her mother went to Nanterre to consult a woman with the reputation of a saint, to whom was attributed the gift of prophecy. The woman announced that the princess would recover her health, but that she was no longer to be counted among the living, for she would henceforth be dead to the world. The truth of this prediction became clear when the suitors who aspired to the hand of the princess presented themselves. Elizabeth dismissed Count Hugh of Austria and Conrad, King of Jerusalem, even though Pope Innocent IV had written to her, urging her to accept the count for the sake of the Aristiandad. Elizabeth's response to the Supreme Pontiff was so humble and prudent that he could not but applaud her decision to serve God in perpetual virginity. Every day Elizabeth was accustomed to receive before lunch a good number of poor people whom she herself attended to. After this, she went to visit the sick. To participate in the crusade, she paid the expenses of 10 men on horseback in the Holy Land. She suffered from several long and painful illnesses. The failure of the crusade and the capture of her brother St. Louis were even greater trials for her. After the death of her mother, she decided to found a convent of Franciscan nuns, with the approval of St. Louis, who promised her material help. The next step was to order that rules be drawn up based on those of St. Clare. The most famous Franciscans of the time, including St. Bonaventure, participated in this work. Such were the beginnings of the famous Franciscan convent of Longchamp, in the present-day Bois de Boulogne in Paris. The convent was called the Monastery of the Humility of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Blessed Elizabeth never lived inside the enclosure. Her apartments were in a wing of the building, separate from the cells of the nuns. The princess did not wear the habit. This was due in part to the fact that her health did not allow her to follow the rule exactly and to her fear of being elected abbess. Moreover, by keeping her wealth, she was able to help maintain the monastery and continued to give alms to the poor. The Blessed did not abandon her fasts and disciplines and observed almost constant silence. Before going to communion, she used to ask forgiveness on her knees to the few servants she kept with her. He lived in this way for 10 years. Shortly before her death, she spent several nights in contemplation without taking any rest. Her confessor and Sister Agnes, who later wrote her life, saw her transported into ecstasy. Her cult was approved in 1521.